Lucy Gray is a very compelling, enigmatic character. She's got a very mercurial sense of self, but she's always on her side when it comes to conflict with other characters in our story and with the world. I find her to be so interesting and wonderful. She's got a lot of amazing musical abilities, and she has a very strong connection to snakes, which was very fun to act and also very fun to do with the snakes we had on set. I remember reading the book in 2020 when it had come out, and we had one copy of the book that went through our house. So my mom read it first and said, Rachel needs to play this part, and then my sister read it and she said, Rachel needs to play this part. Finally, I got to read it, and I just absolutely fell in love with her sense of strength, and she was so sure of herself, and I really, really love that about her. I think it's so inspiring. But also, she gets to sing and play guitar, which is two things that I really love to do. And so getting to do that made it all the better for me to play this part. Working with Tom, who I worked with the most on this movie because we have so many scenes together, was such a joy. He brings this light to set and this inherent knowledge and sense of security in the material, in his own performance, and he's also so playful and truly like my goofiest friend. We just have such a nice time together. Getting to work with Peter Dinklage, fellow New Jersey resident well, not resident, fellow New Jersey born person, and I really adore him. We didn't have many scenes together, but the time we got to spend together off camera is something that I will carry with me for the rest of my life and for my career, because he's so inspiring to watch. Every take is different, yet it is perfect, and you don't really get that with a lot of actors. I absolutely adore Hunter Schafer. I think her as Tiger Snow is such perfect casting, and she brings this like old Hollywood beauty that we haven't seen in so long to this movie. And as a human being, she's just lovely. I've known Josh Andre Rivera for 4 years now. He's my nearest and dearest, and so getting to share the screen with him again is something that I will remember for my life and everything that follows. He's such a beautiful actor. I'm so proud of him, not only off screen, but on screen, and getting to see him rise in such an incredible role as Sejanus is wonderful. I adore Jason Schwartzman. He's actually in one of my favorite movies ever, and I got to talk to him about that. And also I got to sing with him on set, and his music is so wonderful. I was really nervous to play guitar and sing in front of him. He was so supportive and just so happy to be there. I didn't have any scenes with Viola Davis, and I was very intimidated to go up to her, but getting to watch her and her scene with Josh and her scenes with Tom, so inspiring as an actor. They really lead by example and teach by showing. And so I just had the time of my life on this set with my fellow actors. Francis is not only a wonderful director in every way, but he's also just a wonderful person. And so coming to set every day and getting to talk to him and hang out with him, the dinners we would go, after work, on the weekends, he's wonderful company, he's funny, and he's just such a lovely person who cares about the people around him, cares about his crew, cares about his cast, doesn't want people to feel overworked. It's really, really, really wonderful. And we both had a very similar idea for what Lucy Gray was going to be in this film, and bringing her to life from Suzanne Collins' wonderful depiction of her in the book. He has a very deep love of music and a passion for that side of things, so a lot of our collaboration came on what she was going to sound like vocally, musically. It's such an important part in the story, in the book, and in our film. So having somebody who cares so much about the musical aspect was really, really important to me. And I trust him with my life, and I would make every movie with him if I could. There were so many. I mean, I kind of got thrust into things without a lot of rehearsal when it came to the stunts. I had a previous engagement, so I was thrust into a scene called The Bloodbath, which is the beginning of the games. And our camera operator, Dave Thompson, gingerly would push me out of the way of the camera because all of these kids are running at me with weapons and fists and angry faces. And I was terrified, and that worked for Lucy Gray, which was wonderful. I also got to spend time with real snakes on this set, and I got to film with 2 snakes, neither of which had names, but there's a sweet little garter snake that I kind of did a sleight of hand trick, because you're not supposed to go hand first at snakes, and they wanted me to put the snake in my pocket, and I was very scared of getting bit or just scaring the animal. So I did a nice sleight of hand because the camera was behind me. And I named him Kevin for the day, even though he didn't have a name. And then after every take, they would yell cut, and I would put Kevin in the air, and everybody would clap for him, and we would say, "Great take, Kevin." And I hope Kevin's doing well, and I hope he sees the movie. There's definitely a physical resemblance, which is, I think, going to be really interesting for the fans to watch and to see the moments that Donald Sutherland depicted so beautifully, maybe not even knowing that he was doing so, where seeing Katniss is like seeing Lucy Gray for President Snow during the Quarter Quell and during the 74th Annual Hunger Games. But there's also a lot of personality connections. They're very strong-minded, strong-willed, and golden-hearted. I think Lucy Gray's intention is a little bit more fuzzy, and for Coriolanus, it's really hard to figure out what her intentions are, if she's a songbird or a snake or both. And there's also this amazing connection in a way, even though it's about how they are different, where Katniss is a fighter forced to perform and Lucy Gray is a performer forced to fight. And it's interesting to see nature versus nurture in this film with Lucy Gray, with Katniss, but then also with Coriolanus, because we know him to be a dictator, but we don't really know how he got there. And it doesn't seem like at the beginning of this film that he was born bad or that people are born bad. And so it's really, really an interesting dynamic to witness in our story. I think Hunger Games fans will love that it's something that is fresh. It's a fresh take on the films and the stories that we love so much from Suzanne Collins. It's also very, very true to the book that she wrote. Why would you want to change something that is so amazingly written? Suzanne created amazingly dynamic characters with so many facets, these multifaceted characters. I think they're going to really love the performances from our cast, and I think they're also just going to love the music, and that's my hope, because it was really my baby while we were shooting was the music in our film. And so I really think they're going to be excited to be welcomed back into Panem, but with a whole new lens of the characters that they already think they know so well.
A little bit about Coriolanus. Corio he's 18, he's in the academy in Panem, he's beginning to learn how to become a politician and a young kind of leader of Panem. It's 65 years before the Corio or the President Snow who we met in the original series, so he's not quite yet the evil dictator that we know him to be. He's this young, ambitious, kind of like zesty young man who is looking to kind of make a name for himself. But also his family is in dire need of food, and he's trying to keep up appearances while also trying to provide for his family. I think what drew me to Corio is, I mean, aside from being a fan of the franchise originally and going to see them when I was a teenager, what drew me to Corio specifically is his kind of his multitudes. Like, you know, he's not one thing. He's ambitious and he's hungry, but at the same time he tries to remain humble, and yet at the same time he wants to be the best in his class. And I think he's this person who contains just multitudes within him. And when I'm looking at a character, I always look to play someone who contradicts themselves, because I think that's what life is like. We have an amazing cast. We're very lucky. I'm very lucky. Rachel, Hunter, and Josh, you know, we have this awesome young cast that are like somewhat new on the scene, but are making a huge name for themselves, each of them. And then we have this kind of like legendary OG cast who we all look up to, all of us, and then a massive extended cast of amazing international actors from all over the world. And I just think in the original series, you know, you read about it as a fan, how much of a connection they all had, and I think it's a credit to the franchise that we were able to kind of like latch onto that chemistry as well, and it came back to life, I think, in a way that was really organic and fresh. And you know, I mean, Jason is one of the funniest people I've ever met, and brings this levity to the film, which I think really gives it another angle. And there's, you know, it's great to see these characters brought to life by people who are truly transformative. I mean, Viola does this amazing thing where, like, she steps on set as Viola and action starts, and all of a sudden she's Volumnia Gaul, and her voice and her face changes in a way that I've never seen an actor do before. So we are incredibly lucky, and I hope we get to do more. Francis is a really one-of-a-kind director. I feel lucky to be able to call him a director and a friend now. And lucky that he came back to this installment, because I think he loves the world, I think he loves the characters, and I think he loves Suzanne Collins, our incredible creator of the series. And I think he is someone who is able to, in a really unique way, take an enormous world and an enormous franchise and make it feel really intimate and specific, which I think is a testament to him and his skill and his talent, but also his humility and what he brings to the work. He makes a big film as if it's a really intimate family drama almost. And then, not to mention the action pieces that he brings to the movie. The way he shoots action is just so dynamic and so raw, and it hits you right in the chest. I feel very lucky to be working with Francis. Oh man, there's one scene, because Corio is always hungry at the beginning of the film because his family is struggling. There's a scene where Sejanus tries to sneak him a cookie, and it's in the book, so Josh and I knew it was coming. And somehow, throughout this long day of filming with hundreds of people on set, Josh managed to make me crack probably about 100 times. We were trying to do this serious scene where I find out that the Hunger Games are happening, and Josh kept choosing the most inopportune time to hand me a cookie. And by the end of the scene, we were both covered in crumbs and cookie junk all over us. And that is kind of mine and Josh's relationship, really, in a nutshell. We like to crack each other up on set when we can, and throw the other one off and throw them curveballs. I think this movie is going to be quite rewarding to the fans of the original series, because there's a lot of Easter eggs and a lot of connections between this new installment, this prequel, and the original series, and a lot of explanation as to why President Snow in the original films, detests Katniss so much. I think Katniss in the original series reminds President Snow of Lucy Gray Baird, and we get to find that out in this movie and in this book, because it explains how Corio became who he becomes, and how he becomes this dictator, and why his hunger for power grows so strong. And a lot of that is because of Lucy Gray, and because of her kind of enigmatic nature that he can't quite understand. So when Katniss comes along later on, when he's a lot older and a lot more powerful, I think she scares him, because it almost feels like going back in time. I think what fans are going to love most about the film is that it's a return to the games, a return to Panem without being a repeat. It feels like it honors everything we loved about the original franchise, while also revealing so much more that is new and fresh, and answers a lot of unanswered questions about why our most beloved characters are how they are.
Tigress is Corio's cousin, who sort of became a caretaker, and like a sibling in some ways, because of the hardships that they've faced. They sort of like raised each other in a way. And I don't know, I like to think of her as Corio's sort of home base in a world where he has to do a lot of performing. I think I feel really aligned with Tigress. I mean, on a creative level, I think I don't know. I feel aligned with her sort of dedication to fashion and turning mundane things into beautiful, extravagant things, and that's sort of her superpower, and that's a superpower that I want and like strive for. So I feel really aligned with that, and I don't know. It's sweet that she's morally really like morally sound and solid, and it's a character that's not hard to like try and convince yourself that what she's doing is right. I mean, it was so much fun. I like filming wise, the bulk of my scenes were with Tom. And he was such an incredible scene partner. I was almost like nervous because he's like Juilliard trained. I mean, he's like a professional, and his work ethic is unbelievable. So like, and we kind of had to jump in head first, like with our first day of filming, and I was immediately just like, okay, I feel safe with this person. We can go there when we need to. And like I'm in really good hands with my scene partner, and then like I got to meet and hang out with everybody else like outside of work, which was really fun, especially in Berlin. Getting to explore that city with everybody was really sweet, and also coming to set. I did come to set a few times to watch other people's work. I watched Viola's scenes one day. I got to see a bit of Peter in like the watching the Hunger Games room, and oh my gosh, and Jason in that room. Oh, and I just had a front row seat, and all I had to do was watch, which was perfect because he was so entertaining to watch. Francis was so comforting, because I think there was also a bit of like nerves, you know, stepping into this project that is sort of gargantuan in size and in like reverence within like fans and stuff, and immediately upon working with Francis, I felt like taken care of and also safe, and that he's made 3 of these movies before. Like, he's got it down. And that was also just so clear throughout the entire filming process. It was probably one of like the smoothest filming experiences I've ever had. Yeah. Somebody on the team was like set up in a bed in the background of a shot as like a wounded person. Yeah, and me and Josh and Tom had to film this kind of like emotional scene with the knowledge that was happening behind us, and I feel bad for Tom because it was in his eye line, but it was really hard to keep it together during that part. And then yeah, Tom and I both love techno also, so we had a good time in Berlin. I think Hunger Games fans will enjoy the sort of like visual departure that this movie takes from the previous ones, and that there's like a time jump, so clearly a lot has happened between then and now. But also just kind of like the fun creative liberties that the production designers and everybody worked on, like who worked on the design and the visuals, what they took and what they kind of made with their imagination and the cool sort of like sci-fi dystopian future, but also the past aesthetic that they created. I think it's really unique.
Sejanus is what I consider to be the moral compass or the heart of the film. You know, he is originally from District 2 and was able to move with his family to the capital after his father came into a good deal of money. And yeah, so I think he knows, you know, tributes being plucked out of the districts. He has a real soft spot for that because he comes from the districts. He's a peer of Coriolanus Snow. They have a bit of a relationship. You know, they're friends with one another, or at least Sejanus values his friendship. I mean, Coriolanus, it's kind of up for you to decide how he feels about Sejanus. But yeah, he really values that relationship, and I think he really, really tries to get Coriolanus to do good. He's got a big heart, to a fault, I think, at certain times. You know, how passionate Sejanus is about changing the world that he lives in. I really liked that. And, you know, I always have a soft spot for characters who, you know, everybody is so accustomed to this status quo and the way that things go, regardless of how totally messed up it might be. And then, you know, you have the outliers that we kind of need in this world that are like, this is not right. Regardless of how many people are telling me that this is the way that things are supposed to go, like, this is not right. And I really admire those kinds of people. And Sejanus is one of those people, and I think that really drew me to him. Yeah, I mean, I have good things to say about everybody in this cast. I mean, you know, I got to spend so much time with everybody, and, you know, Tom and Rachel specifically, we were kind of like, you know, we were together an awful lot. We got to, you know, explore together, kind of go out together and see Germany together, and, you know, they're just amazing, very, very special people to me. I think Jason is the funniest guy I think I've ever met. He's the best. I can't wait for you guys to see him be Lucky Flickerman. He's legitimately the funniest guy alive. I mean, Peter's incredible. Every time he would do a take, he would play. Like, he really would play with the dialogue and with inflections and stuff. You know, he was able to do this thing that I admire so much in actors, where, you know, you say all the same words in the monologue. You have a big monologue. You say the whole monologue. You have to do it over and over and over again because it's film. And each time you do it, there's little bits and pieces that you kind of tweak your tonality, and it has such a different subtext. It has like a completely different meaty energy that just has like slightly different color. And Peter would always give like something really interesting, and you never did the same take twice. It was awesome. I loved watching him do that. Viola. I mean, she's amazing. She came in and was legitimately so crisp. My jaw dropped, because I'm sure you've seen, you know, bits and pieces of the trailer. She's got this whole thing going on. And when I first saw her come up for like the speech at the reaping, my jaw legitimately dropped. I was like, I got real goosebumps. It was very crazy. It was quite intense. I love Francis Lawrence. I'm sure you've heard this from a ton of other people in the cast, but he's so incredible at being collaborative with his actors, you know, and really making us feel like we can bring ourselves and our ideas to the roles, which is so gratifying to feel like you have a hand in creating these characters with the director. You know, it really is like, that's what film is. It's a collaboration of a bunch of people, and Francis, I think, really has that in him. And he just like makes incredible decisions. I mean, he has such a good big picture mentality of like how things should look aesthetically, coloring. You know, he's an amazing director. Yeah, man, I love to mess with Tom because he was so. I mean, he's amazing. Like, he was a very dedicated guy. And there was this scene where my mom gives me cookies and then I give them to Coriolanus, and you know, it's meant to be like a moment where I'm like, here, I can't give you anything, but I can give you this, you know, in an effort to kind of make him feel better about something that was happening. And they gave me real cookies to put in this little box that I was meant to give to him. Unfortunately, the cookies were really good. So I would get the cookies, and then he would give me back the box in between each set. And he was like, you know, the box would get lighter and lighter, and then he would look at me and he'd be like, "Are there crumbs on your face?" Because I was, you know, in between takes, I would just eat the cookies. You know, they were really good. The cookies weren't on camera, so I would eat them, you know? Otherwise, they get stale. They were delicious. Whoever baked those cookies, I mean. I think thematically, it's so poignant. I mean, it's got a, it just has so much heart. And, you know, as, how do I put this? It's like, it takes place before the Hunger Games were such a polished, spectacular, you know, event that it ends up being in the original trilogy. And I think because of that, there's this kind of added grit to it. And there's these added stakes and tension that kind of, like, throughout a good portion of the movie, you know, is present. It's incredible. I think they're gonna love the entire film.